Welcome. Welcome to this week's BTO talk on generative AI. It's my great pleasure to have you here. My name is Michael Alf, calling from Lisbon in Portugal, where one of the biggest tech events just coming to an end. And I'm here with my two partners. Rob, over to you.
Yes, Rob Thurner, one of the partners with Beyond the Obvious, based in London and working with Cambridge Judge Business School on digital transformation. Over to our third musketeer.
Third musketeer, not in Paris, but in Singapore. Pleasure to see all of you. Marcus Kuiper, professor at the National University of Singapore. And yes, we're together with Michael and Rob. We are helping you to win the race in generative AI. And Michael, the only hot topic we really want to talk about today is the Web Summit. What is the Web Summit and why is it important for the audience?
It is. And I just returned from the Web Summit 2024. It's one of the largest tech events in the world, and in Europe. So it's happening every week. That's too much. Every year in beautiful Lisbon. There's a longer story behind that. So kind of the founder, when they created the Web Summit, it's not that long ago, I think about 10 years, he actually handpicked, I would call it tier 2 cities, and therefore he got a great deal with the cities, which basically means kind of this event boosts the economy, the local economy, and Lisbon was one of them. And see, what it did to Lisbon. I mean, part of that is the Web Summit, where 70,000 people on site coming there, thousands of startups. It's kind of, and from everywhere in the world. Now we have Web Summits in Doha, in Brazil, in Canada. So really handpicking kind of these interesting developing cities, because he gets a really good deal with the local governments, even the country governments. And that's kind of the strategy behind that, multi-million business now. And really one of the things where tech people are coming together, also some non-tech people. So that's kind of the Web Summit in a nutshell. And it's my third one, and I had the opportunity to kind of visit today. And I have a few kind of highlights, and one in particular I would use then as a handover for a discussion with Rob and Marcus. So look, AI everywhere. Generative AI even more so everywhere. So I'd say almost every second, third startup is GenAI. So of course the startup world moves faster than actually the businesses, which we see in our work with our clients. And that's normal, to some extent. So there's a lot happening in this space across basically every function, every industry, everywhere. So it's like, well, it's not the kind of silver bullet for everything, but of course it's to see this Cambrian explosion, as we quote in our trainings. This is kind of unfolding as we speak here on a regular basis. So this is one. It's really great to see everything around text, of course, and images. That's normal. So I want to point out two, and then the extra one for the discussion. One, which was really impressive, is a music solution, and has been around for a while, is now optimizing GenAI even on the device. So it's Edge AI, where you can basically think about a song with lyrics, kind of singing, with, let's say, guitar and drums. And then you can actually move out, fade out, for example, only the drums in a live song. I mean, it's not like, well, it's amazing. Kind of the technology basically dissects the stream into lyrics, singing, into drums, and into guitar. And then you can tune out, tune in. Therefore, you can practice. And one of the examples was one of the top musician used that to optimize his own music. So kind of he is optimizing himself using these technologies. I liked it really as an example because it's kind of not mainstream. Second one, drug discovery, huge. So you could say, well, that's not language, but it actually is language. And there's a lot happening there. Most of the pharma companies are really heavily investing into GenAI as well. So that's an exciting space, which is a little bit off kind of the main path, if you like, in the main discussion. The third one, and this is the discussion. was a really interesting one from the CEO and founder of Unbubble, which is basically translation services. Yeah, and I've worked on quite a few virtual events using various translation services. And of course, kind of it comes to mind, is that possible? Today, it's still at this kind of borderline where it doesn't really work or it does work. And of course, most think it doesn't work, but it's massively and fast shifting. And this guy with his team, well established, made an interesting test. It was basically running AI, optimized AI against human capabilities. And did that with kind of, for example, a legal text, a prosa, so kind of Marcus Aurelius' Meditations in Old English, and a highly complex document. And comparing those, so highly complex documents. We are talking about high-end translation, not kind of the run-of-the-mill kind of translations. And then they did blind testing, blind quality testing afterwards. So it's not like, well, we have a look at it. So it's people who didn't know, is it AI or human? And the results really, really interesting. And I summarized just the key ones and then his summary. The winner isn't yet AI across the board. It is in some areas already. So it's not like, well, it's all kind of done completely. The one area where humans are still better is the very high end, very complex, very specialized. So let's say if you kind of machine engines, Rolls-Royce, and if you do some technical translations there, and then you have special humans who only do this, they are better. So this is a very tiny space. All the rest, more or less, AI is better already. Of course, not all AI, not ChatGPT and DeepL, so kind of the specialists are there. And the second one, and that's an interesting one, if you add a second human, guess what? The quality gets worse, not better. So more humans actually make it worse. So his summary, and he has been in AI forever. He has a PhD in AI, so classical machine learning AI and more. So it's kind of, he's an expert. He said, I can't believe what I'm seeing. So it's really changing the whole game. It's a huge industry. I remember 27 billion. So it's a huge industry, of course. And he came to this conclusion within 3 years, there's no humans necessary anymore. And so he said, he had this kind of more political saying, well, no, kind of correct saying at the moment, well, it's just kind of making humans more efficient. He's now saying, well, that's no longer the case. It's like this part of the value chain. Of course, the value chain is longer. So you have to choose what you translate, in which languages you translate, and all these questions. And then you translate. But the translation part is basically AI. And within 3 years, there's nothing necessary from humans. I really wanted to share that and hand it over. What you think, because we can learn, I think, a lot. So he's an expert. He changed his view on his business, his business perspectives. And I found that really insightful. That's why I wanted to share that on this live. And handing over to, I don't know, Marcus, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, this is fascinating and scary at the same time, I think, because so far we have been talking about where GenAI can help analyzing documents, LLMs, right? Where we have been talking about creating images, where we have talking about, can you write a strategy for a go-to-market, whatever. And I always thought that the human element, the differentiation of speech, for example, and when I talk to you in a different language, if you speak Portuguese and Rob speaks a different language and I speak German or whatever, this will be very hard to be translated and people will be necessary. But Michael, what we're hearing is that it won't be necessary. Gen AI will be at level, if not better. How big is this in the end? What impact will that have?
Yeah, so it's a huge industry, of course. I mean, we're all, when you think about the UN COP, at the moment happening, so that's all translated. So it's and of course there's a lot of document translation. So I think we need to kind of have the live translation. That's one part. I think that's kind of takes a little bit longer. We are talking about here translation of legal documents and things, so more documents. Even there, I mean, translating Marcus Aurelius' Meditations in Old English. Rob, you are native. What do you think about that?
Yeah, look, it's fascinating. It brings back the cycles we've seen before. I remember when Google Translate was first launched, and there were questions at the beginning. Well, yes, okay, it can do the basic stuff, but there are a lot of mistakes, and so don't rely on it. Of course, the nature of machine learning and the exponential improvement means it doesn't take that long before what's a 10% or 20% success jumps up to 90 and then higher still. My question here is, I wonder whether we will ever get to actually 100%. And in areas where we still have that specialism that you described earlier, we'll be in a position where even the most advanced and the most demanding customers or practitioners may say, look, we're never actually going to get there. So there will always be a need to have some human interface there to validate that this is indeed correct. And I wonder, Michael, I'm thinking now about the legal sector, and we've been doing some work recently with a law firm, UK law firm now based in the Middle East, how satisfied they will be in having the translation capability brought in to entirely replace. Is it the case that there will still be an assistive role rather than the full replacement? What do you think?
Look, I think it's a really good question, and I'd like to replay obviously a little bit kind of the expertise of this CEO and combining that with our perspectives. There are two sides. There is the side you are addressing, and there is probably a kind of a increasingly small, if that's right, portion where you still want to validate, and you still have the human at the end of the cycle. So maybe not in the middle, or in the middle of the process, but towards the end of the translation part.
Yeah.
That could be. The challenge still remains when you think about, you have 10,000 people now doing translation, and suddenly you need 10.
Yeah.
This is kind of, so you have 9,990 people obsolete. Yeah. And they're not doing something else. I mean, there's nothing. Yeah. So there's kind of, their core business is gone. Yeah. It's not like they are not deciding what, so I think it's a huge impact. I think you are right. There isn't this element, so legal could be a good one. There might be some validation at the end, but on the flip side, even there, sometimes it will be really hard kind of to judge, what is better and what is not better. But I agree, there will be an element in many cases where you have some humans.
Yeah.
But what happens with the 9,990 people, Marcus? What do you think? If he's there. I think he's kind of, he's in the mountains. So so Rob, then over to you, the question. So what happens with the 9,990?
Yeah, I mean, it's a question which keeps coming back. Are there new jobs being created which will allow us to use our time more effectively and efficiently? And are there some jobs which are just plain gone? And in which case there will be headcount reduction. There will be reductions in costs associated with that. I think they're hard to escape. If we're in a position where there really is confidence that AI is doing as good a job without any reduction in quality, then those jobs have to be absorbed in other parts of the organization, which I think inevitably means reskilling, understanding how those skills can be transferred into different areas. And if necessary, a wholesale shift from what we're doing now and what we need to do in the future. It's a pretty drastic picture, and it's one that comes up again and again in the workshops we're running. Well, does this mean I need to find another role? Our argument has always been, it won't be the AI itself that gets rid of you. It'll be people who know how to use the AI more effectively. So one would then need to think, okay, what does this mean if you're in the translation business? How can you take your skills, apply AI in a way that makes you more effective, rather than completely reinvent yourself to do something else. And I think the answer is, well, it depends on your role. It depends how quick we are to this point. And if it's 3 years and the clock's ticking, well, 3 years to then find a way of using your skills better, and if necessary, completely retrain. What's your sense, Michael, about other ways that time saving can be absorbed by the organization, and how would you be advising HR departments who are looking after these teams and getting them to reskill or reinvent?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think what we see, and the theme you just mentioned came up a couple of times. So of course, the combination of human and AI wins against kind of AI only or human only. I think that's a recurring kind of, that's almost a given. It's almost like feels a little bit like boring, repeating that, because it's so obvious. You just we have the better quality and everything, and so that's there. I think we all need to face, both on the company level, on the individual level, really need to kind of think about the potential impact in an exponential scenario on what we are doing. And remember, Rob, I mean, we are now using kind of this Harvard Business Review question around the CEO. Is the kind of, can the CEO be outperformed? And everyone says, of course not. Say, okay, but the study says something different. For significant elements, it can be, not everything, of course, but significant elements. So I think we all need to really think through, and this includes, by the way, us as well, as executive educators. What does this mean for our future? And the future is generally coming faster than you think. I think with these two things makes it really mandatory to really consider what it means for us, and therefore how we deal with it. And so this is kind of really a call to action, to think how we address that. Marcus, you were able to kind of join back again.
Yeah, I'm sorry for that. I think what will be very interesting for any small and medium enterprise will be how affordable translation will become in the future, and that anyone can basically probably get it at their fingertips. So this whole discussion we have been growing up, the three of us, with, do we translate into another language, and how much will it cost us to translate our brochures and websites into another language? And the videos will only be in English because everyone understands. Will or seems to become a normality to say, well, it will be translated immediately for a few cents, Michael, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think that's a start, of the conversation, and we'll have more. What we really would like to do is kind of again invite you to join our community. The link is there, community.beyondtheobvious.co/EOI, expression of interest. We are going to launch that. So where you get more information, you get closer to us, you can ask your questions, so that you have the opportunity to be at the forefront of what is happening, because there are more opportunities at the moment than risks, because it's still early stages. So the more you dive into it, the earlier you dive into it, I think the more opportunity you have. With that, we'd really like to kind of close this session. It's a shorter one, because we are busy. Kind of there's a busy afternoon and evening in Switzerland as well, Marcus, I heard. And with that, thank you very much, and see you all next week for the next session. And let us know what questions you have. See you then.
Thanks for your time. See you next time.